Good evening, and thanks for joining the award-winning To Hull and Back podcast, sponsored by Old Zoological Bar and Kingfisher Quality Fish and Chips in Hull. I'm your host, Nathaniel, and tonight I'm joined by Will and Tom. And as we haven't had a match yesterday, as it's the international break, you can see Will there, bored of international breaks, especially with England playing such unattractive football with that long ball goal they scored through Kyle
The
Walker.
Rugby Union side played better football than the football side.
Well, yeah, so we might not have that much to talk about, so I might actually ask you about what I've seen with some new rugby union rules. So hopefully that hasn't put any diehard football fans off.
Content.
Yeah, but we thought we'll encourage people really to ask some questions on this episode, as it's the international break. I had a really nice fun time doing the Q&A 2 weeks ago when we were supposed to be signing Philogene and Davis from Aston Villa, and so I answered the questions then. So put your questions in the comments on the live streams on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook, and we'll do our best to answer them. But just to start off, I saw an article in the Hull Daily Mail, and of course it's linked to the sort of combined lineups that I do. But after the 10 signings we've made in this summer transfer window, we want to know exactly what the best Hull City team is that we can put out in an 11. So give me a few seconds whilst it loads. But I guess just Will, thoughts on, let's start with the goalkeeper. How are you firstly? And then let's talk about the goalkeeper situation. Who's the best there that we've got?
Firstly, I'm melting hot. Secondly, it's weird seeing a combined 11 that has 11 Hull City players in it. I won't lie.
Well, when we play Sheffield Wednesday again later on, this will be the combined lineup.
And we'll probably lose 1-0 then.
We probably would lose if I predicted that, yeah. So, Allsop, Lotutala or Ingram?
Ingram's done nothing wrong, so in my opinion, you don't drop Ingram even for a new signing who's really coming to be equal to him.
Tom, thoughts? And I'll take this graphic off if I can read it out, but it'd be nice to have your face on the actual episode.
I mean, the audio listeners couldn't see the graphic in the first place.
That's true. I'll read out my 11, but I think we'll probably just go through every position, so we don't really need to read it out.
From what I saw there, I think Tufan, given his start to the season, I'd agree with, but it's obviously tossed up between him and Connolly, who have both been great, and you can't drop
for the goalkeeper position.
I was just on about the whole team in general, to be honest. Right. But in terms of the goalkeeper, then I like Will. You can't drop Ingram. He's not really put a foot wrong. He made some crucial saves this season. And to be fair, given he's not great with the ball at his feet, I don't think he's been too bad at distributing out either. So yeah, can't really complain.
But Vecina brought in Allsop from, is it Cardiff? Because of his ability on the ball. So do we think that that he will eventually become the number one goalkeeper? Like Ingram, the last 2 seasons has been pushed out of that number one spot. So could that happen again if he does struggle at some point with playing out from the back?
Well, if he struggles, then possibly. But at this moment in time, I don't think you can say he struggled yet.
Yeah.
The only game you could argue, the only game you could really truly argue he struggled was the Doncaster Rovers game. And despite what everyone wants to believe about that game, and that wasn't really Ingram's fault. It was kind of the defenders not really helping him at all.
Yeah, there's no movement, was there? And it is a League Cup game, so sort of give him off, give that one off for him. So, I mean, I think we're all agreeing with Ingram, because I think maybe Darlow was better, but with the keepers, even with bringing Allsop, the keepers we've got at the moment, I think Ingram's really the best, right? You agree with that, Tom? No complaints. Yeah.
No complaints.
Ian's very happy with my lineup. He says, "Bloody hell, Nat! I think you are about right for once." With the it's not a combined lineup, so maybe just if I can name a whole 11 whole players, there's not really anything to complain about there. Pretty easy. So now here's
Chris State right back. Kyle.
Well, isn't Coyle in the Sky Team of the Year so far? I know it's only been 5 games, but I'm pretty sure he is in the Sky Sports.
He's so far in the team of the season so far. He's in most of them statistically.
Yep. The football app I use,
similar to Ingram, I can't justify dropping him for Christie.
No, but this was sort of when they're all. when they're all fully fit, Christie probably will be in above Coyle, because I think the reason why he hasn't played so well so far, although he did make an impact against Leicester having a shot on target, he will probably
Christie
push
can't
in.
defend as good as Coyle, I don't think.
Yeah,
No.
again, Coyle's played well all season so far. You can't justify dropping him, even if they're both fully fit. And even when Coyle's not fully fit, he still plays great. He played most of the half of last season with broken ribs.
Yeah, well, perhaps that's why he's been the best strike back in the league somehow, which I still can't believe with the amount of criticism he gets. But because he is fully fit now, he hasn't got a broken rib. Perhaps that's healed. It's letting him play.
He's just a monster in 1v1s. I think like he's not the quickest, but he's 1v1 defending. It's just class. Like it's just what you want to see from a fullback.
Yeah, and I think you do want the club captain on the pitch, because so often he's not been on there. But he ended last season quite well, and it's pretty good. We're very blessed in the right back position. Then we've got a great club captain playing for the team, for his local town, and is 5 games in the best right back in the league. And then Christie was, for the 2/3 of the season he was fit, the best right back in the league statistically. That's a very good position to be in, isn't it?
Apart from probably Connor Roberts, but and play like that.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about Connor Roberts, Tom, because we don't have him.
you said he's the best right back in the league.
Yeah, but we're not doing our team of the season so far after 5 games. I know it's an international break, but I think we've got other stuff to talk about. I think we've only got one right-sided centre-back that isn't like Andy Smith. I mean, Andy Smith's good, but he's not played for us, has he, ever before? So I think Jones...
He played against Doncaster.
Right, okay.
And he played in League One season as well, I think, in the what is it, Papa John's Trophy. He played then.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, apart from that,
it's got to be Jones at right-sided centre-back, hasn't it?
He's been our best centre-back by far.
Yeah, lovely assist against Blackburn. Well, is it really vindication? Has anyone really complained about Alfie Jones?
No one's complained about Alfie Jones. Everyone's ignored him until recently.
Well, we're not ignoring him.
He was just ignored, and everyone was made it from McLaughlin, even though Jones was doing just as good a job. That's nothing against McLaughlin. He was good last season, but Jones was as good, and Liam clearly felt also because he gave him Player of the Year.
Well, Jones was class. Yeah,
he sort of has to be in because Smith's not played enough for us. So he, in a best 11 of whole players, he's got to be in there at right side as centre back, hasn't he? And then I guess the other one, do you want Greaves out at left back? Because he has played quite well there this season and last season. But then Vinagre played very well.
I was going to say, you did watch the Leicester game, didn't you, Nathaniel?
Well, I listened to it. Oh, actually, I didn't listen to it. I was on holiday, so I was just following it.
Yeah.
The defence needs to be Vinagre, Greaves, Jones, Coyle.
Yeah, I think I won't bring the graphic back up, but that is what I had, because we've signed Vinagre to be, the starting player, especially above Furlong, now that Fleming's out on loan. And
that's the other thing as well. With Furlong also coming in, Greaves isn't going to be playing left back again for a while.
Yeah, perhaps.
Even though he did well there, but
he doesn't want to play there. He wants to be in the centre back. Right?
Are we a bit light in the defensive region? I know we've got 2 right backs.
I said that all summer. I said that in midfield as well. Like we would like to have a defensive midfielder. I mean, we brought in Tyler Morton, but I think we've got like 4 central midfielders really: Seri Slater, Doherty, and the Tyler Morton. And then in terms of the centre backs, we've literally got 4 to count upon. And obviously one of them was Andy Smith, and I wouldn't say I was comfortable playing it. If you had to play ahead of, say if Jones got injured or something and had to play, then I won't be comfortable playing with him, given what we've seen so far. But clearly, like I said previously, Rossini must see something in him to not go out and buy a centre back. And if he didn't, then he'd have learned him out. Like that. That's it. So
and we don't really know.
It's a bit untapped potential there, really.
We don't know how good he is on the ball either, and that's so important. With Jones used to play midfield, he can definitely do that. We can see with his lovely assist for Connolly against Blackburn, that's something he's really good at, but we don't know about Smith really. So yeah, I think that's the back 5. I keep joking about how much money we're paying for him, so Seri's got to be in there, right? Because he's so important. We saw when Simons came in and Woods, they couldn't link the play together as well as we need it with Seri.
Yeah, I'd go as far as saying that Seri's the most important player in the whole club. Like in terms of you take him out of the squad, you lose that connection between defence, midfield, and attack. He's the fulcrum in midfield, like, and no one can replace the impacts that he has on the team. I don't think. Whereas other areas of the squad, you could say that you can replace him. Like say, if an Agro injured, like Greaves can play there. If Slayer got injured, you could put someone in there like on a docket. It wouldn't probably have the same impact, but it'd be better than having to swap out Seri, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, I think Seri's probably our most important player.
Yeah, I agree with that. And with paying him 200 grand a week or whatever it is, you'd hope that he would be the most important player.
Yeah.
Because with how many times he gets us out of those tricky situations at the back, and of course Greaves and Jones and McLaughlin are good on the ball, but you really need Seri to drop in as well and start those attacks. And then player of the season last year, Regan Slater next to him. I mean, we haven't really seen. Well, we've not seen anything of Tyler Morton except when we played him against Blackburn last year. So I guess it's Slater, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Rossini sort of like drops the idea of having like a ball winner in there, like an out-and-out ball winner, just to have ball players instead. I think his idea is to keep the ball as much as possible, so we don't need to win it back, if you know what I mean, with our midfield. Like, because if you look on the outset, even from our perspective, that we look a bit lightweight in there with Seri and Slater, but so far this season we've looked pretty like comfortable. I know we've been breached a few times like through midfield and teams have got at us, but I think overall it's been promising. But I would have still liked to have seen us bring in sort of like more of a ball winner in there, maybe someone over 6 foot, that a bit more physically imposing, because it's a long season and you're going to get these games where you'll probably get outclassed, not like outclassed, but like you'll come against a team that has more strength in there, and that's where the battle can sometimes be won and lost. And we've seen it a couple of times this season where we breach quite easy. So I'd like to have seen us improve that area a bit more.
Do you think Jones at championship level could work there? Do you think he's not got the mobility? Because I think that
mobility is the key thing. I think with centre back, you can position yourself a bit better. Like, if you need to take the extra few yards, you can drop off. Whereas in midfield, you can get bypassed quite easy. And like you either choose to sort of press up and win the ball back, or sort of drop a bit deeper. But Rossini said like Tyler Morton could be that sort of aggressive midfielder that we've missed a little bit. Like, I know he's not like this. I think he's like 5'9" again. He's not like tall, but I think he's got the aggression and the ability to win the ball back. So hopefully that's the reason why he's been brought in, as well as his ball playing ability as well. Apparently he's great on the ball, so yeah, I think he fits our style well.
Yeah, but maybe when you go on, Will.
I wouldn't be surprised that I don't think he will if you saw Morton come straight into the team for the Coventry game. Personally, I don't think he will, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Bold. Why would you not be surprised?
Because Rossini raised him so highly. Like he brought him up when we played them last season. He brought him up specifically in his post-match press conference, which says to me he's been someone he's been impressed with for a long while. And I think he's got him in. And like I say, last season he had a good season with Blackburn. I just feel like he wants him, because the main issue, as we mentioned, in the midfield, we do seem a bit light at times. I think he wants to eradicate that as soon as possible, and by bringing Morton in, I think he'll at least try and do that straight away.
Yeah, I suppose he brought in Twine straight away, and would we imagine moving a bit higher up the pitch? Twine, with the amount of sort of excitement around him, and I know we have a lot of wingers, but he came straight in. His first touch against Bristol City that I watched, that was amazing. He's got to be in any sort of position, whether it's in the midfield or kind of as a 10 or out wide, got to find a way to include him, surely.
Well, with Tufan injured, I think we'll be seeing Twine playing in that number 10 role against Coventry.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good shout.
Philogene could then
Philogene right away, probably.
Yeah, hopefully. And then who's on the left?
Well, we're missing someone. I mean, Delap was on the left, wasn't he?
But that was on the right,
the
wasn't
right.
he? And Connolly was up front, so maybe we play Philogene on the left, Lap on the right, Connolly up front. But I think I'm not sure if Rossini's going to go back to obviously playing the Lap a bit more centrally, given like
at home he'd rather play him up front in the middle, wouldn't he?
Yeah. I think he was out wide because obviously he was out wide against Leicester because he's more effective there against their wide centre backs rather than obviously if you play centrally, it's a bit harder I think, but he's more effective out wide. But it depends on the sort of team you're playing against. So.
Well, yeah, maybe that Delap on the wing against Leicester thing was just sort of a one-off thing.
Yeah,
for Leicester.
Obviously Leicester play three at the back, so maybe it was easy for Delap to exploit their defence from wide than it was centrally because he got more space on the ball. And then whereas against like Bristol City, I think obviously playing centrally because he's against two centre backs, though he's still obviously drifted out wide, and that's what's the beauty of it. Like he's so hard to pick up that you can just drift out wide and pick up the balls rather than essentially he's able to hold up the ball as well and bring others into play. So obviously you have to fit him anyway. You can get him in with Delap.
Yeah. Of course, Delap and Connolly are very different strikers. I imagine Delap's, he's bigger. He can hold the ball up a bit more with the interplay, and Connolly's just sort of get in over the top with Seri's passes and score the one-on-ones and score the chances that we create. When we've got Tufan fit, he's imagined probably number 10, Twine and Philogene out wide, or whoever whatever winger we happen to choose out of the many options we have. So I think probably early to tell, but Connolly's got 3 goals, Delap's got 2, but I think Delap probably brings more to start the game, and then Connolly against sort of tired defenders later on in the game. As we've seen, like Kerry came on against Blackburn, scored 2. He's probably a finisher in terms of coming off the bench more often, right? Managers can have finishes.
I do like his bite up front, his pressing. Like really enjoyed that against Leicester. Like he just puts himself about. He's like a workhorse. He just plays like a street sort of football, if you know what I mean. Like he just chases down everything, and that's exactly what you want as a striker. And that's probably why he was deployed there against Leicester, because we wanted to get in the faces from the off, and he set the tone for that. So it will be. I think after that performance, he won't get dropped against Coventry, but it's good that we've got the options to sort of change it up off the bench if we need to. And obviously, Aliar came off the bench against Leicester. I liked what I saw from him a little bit, and I want to see more of him centrally, and hopefully he'll get more chances off the bench, like 20 minutes, and if he can impress, then try break his way into the plans. But,
did Aliar come on as a striker?
He was I think he was playing striker.
Yeah. Well,
did he come on for Connolly? I don't know. He came off the lap, I think, but he was. Yeah, I think he was. I think if we yag to play him, he'll be up front, I think. But obviously, he can play on the right as well.
Yeah, because he's not been prolific for us, but on the wing, he's not really done a lot on the wing. And when we brought him in initially, he was playing up front rather than four shoots.
Yeah, it was him and KLP up front. Yeah. He's better in a 2 up front, as we saw with Keane Lewis Potter when towards the end of the 2 seasons ago. Like he was both playing up front, and was looking good with them two. And then obviously we're bringing Oscar, and then push Ali out wide, and it's not really his position. He probably played better as a wing back than he did on the wing, so that says a lot. But yeah, I'd rather see him up front.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're talking about the strikers we've got so many attacking players. I thought I'd just make this lineup that's a bit different. Manager. This is Football Manager, yeah. So for the audio,
it's Football Manager when you're like 3-1 down with 10 minutes to go.
You're really bored.
This is a sort of a 1-1-2-4-2 formation of Greaves at the back by himself.
Formation from the 1940s. What is this? Actually,
if I stop the banner,
in 1953.
If I stop the banner for a second, you actually see who's in goal. It's Regan Slater, and there wasn't space for him. There wasn't space for him in the midfield because there isn't really one. So he's defensive mid or sort of a sweeper. And you got Vinagre Christie, the Kilo Twine, Tufan Philogene, Connolly and Delap all up front pretty much. But I thought this formation, if we do need the goal, you need Slater on the pitch. He's a utility player, sort of. He can play anywhere really. On FIFA, I can play him right back, and that works perfectly fine because he's very well rounded. So I thought he has to be in somewhere, and we can't put Seri in goal. It could have been Greaves, but then you don't want Greaves, in goal and Slater as a centre back. So I thought, could we play a 1-1-2-4-2 formation or whatever it was?
Remember about 10 minutes ago when I said, I like these 11s because there's 11 Hull City players in them. I'm taking that back. That's the worst formation I think I've ever seen you do.
It wasn't supposed to be realistic. It's just that's the only way. That's the only way we can fit all the attacking.
A nice 1-3-4-2 formation.
Put 6 up front like that, and then push the fullbacks as far up as possible. And if we're 1-0 down in the playoff final, you're not gonna just try and grind out a 1-0 defeat. You've got to go for it.
I'm probably not going to sub off my keeper either.
For a 5'8" player, something like that. Yeah.
You might have picked the shortest player in the team and put him in goal there.
Well, he's got to be there. I felt like Slater would be one of the first to volunteer to go in goal.
Yeah.
He's just a nice guy. And he does what he needs to do for the team. That's what I was thinking.
I imagine it'd be one of the centre backs.
Well, yeah, but they're slow. Maybe Slater can sprint out of his goal quickly and smother the attacker. Dallas Woods. Finally, I've put in my little bio here. Get your questions in. Dallas has got a good question. Are you smoking crack? I wasn't. I was just trying to. Add a bit of levity. Here another one. I'd start Aliar and Delap up front against Coventry and give Connolly plenty of time second half. Well, I think Aliar's probably not fit enough to start yet, perhaps, but I think I'm quite excited actually if Rossini has decided to start playing him up front, because I think that's probably his best position. I know he's not been prolific for us, but he's got a few goals, and perhaps we'll start seeing the best of him now. Pressing like Connolly can be. So perhaps we're not as short up front as I thought. Ian, he starts off sensible, and then I go and soil it. I'm imagining that could be spoiled it, but I could have soiled it as well, I suppose.
Maybe a bit of both.
Maybe a bit of both. Well, let's move away from lineups now. We can come back to one later. Don't worry, we've got the combined lineup, the best part of the podcast. But I think let's just go through a few more stats and then perhaps look at the very big week we've got ahead with the Coventry and the Leeds games at home. Got a question from my friend Kieran. Are we going up? So, Will, are we going up?
Yes.
Yes? Do you want to back that up? What have you seen?
I just don't want to be negative.
No, but what have you seen in the first 5 games that means that it's more likely than it was before the season started, perhaps? And don't just say we've won 3 games. That's boring. Tactically and performance-wise, what have you seen?
We've only lost 1 game. There you go.
That's good.
3 games. No, I feel that the style that Rossini is getting us to play is clearly improving week on week. And if it's doing so well at this point against decent sides like Leicester, I'll be honest, I don't think we're going to go up, really. But if it improves week on week as it is, you can't argue with us being with a shout of being up there in the top 6. I mean, we're 6th now. I know you shouldn't base it after 5 games. 10 games minimum is when you start looking at the table, and then even then that's a bit early. But there's nothing to say we can't do it.
Well, we're averaging title form at the moment with the amount of points we've got from 5 games, double points.
But then you can say 5 teams are averaging better points as well.
But we've not played them yet. We've not had a chance to beat them yet. Well, some of them. We've probably played 2 of them actually, so that's not a very good stat. But Tom, are we going up? Yes or no?
Ask me in 10 games time, but
yes.
I'll just be the bearer of bad news and say no, but I think we can push towards playoffs. I don't want to be like I don't want to like say yes and then look back at the end of the season and be like, oh yeah, I said was going up and all that. But I think last season we started first 4 games, 2 wins, 2 draws. Look how it petered out. Obviously, that was under Shota, but now performances have improved a lot. The start of the season, obviously under Rossini, so we're encouraged by that. But obviously, we've got some tough fixtures to come. Obviously, people, Leeds is still going to be a tough fixture because of the occasion. I know they haven't started well, but I think they're clicking a bit now. Obviously, Coventry's, they're not started the best, but that's going to be a tough game on Friday. So, next 5 games, are going to be hard, but hopefully we can come away with at least like 7 points or something.
I predicted 10th. I'm going to stick with it, even though we've made some good signings since I predicted that. Just play it safe. Just stick with what I've already said.
Well, I predicted 11th, and I think maybe I want to push it up to 9th or something, but then we could have a very bad next 5 games, couldn't we? Then might have to bump it back down to 11. So, I'm not going to change my prediction throughout the season. It's always going to be 11th. It has to be, because that's what I said at the start. But again, it's probably better to do that once you've had the full transfer window, because especially when we signed Twine and Philogene, I think that perhaps boosted it a little bit. Good thing you mentioned the start of the season, Tom, last year, because I looked at the stats, and last season, 8 points from the first 5, scored 7, conceded 8 because of that horrible defeat at West Brom, where it was 5-2, whereas this year, 10 points, scored 9, conceded 6. So better defence, more goals, more points.
And now we have a game plan, unlike then.
Well, precisely. Under Shota, really, we got those wins, just some sort of lucky bounces that fell to Oscar against Norwich and Coventry. He scored those 5 goals, and none of them are really sort of well worked. He just sort of scruffy poachers, whereas this year, some of the goals, like we had Ozan Tufan's great hit against Sheffield Wednesday for goal of the month, and one of these sort of 5 nominations for the entire league. So I think that shows that, the passing move before then was really lovely, and the goals, the quality of the goals we've scored so far have been much better. And the move against Bristol with Delap's lovely cross to Tufan as well, I think that was more evidence that we're just playing much better football. But is the fact we did have that strong start after 4 games last season, and then we lost the 5th, just evidence that really we can't get too excited this year, Tom?
I think last season we lulled into a false sense of security after the start. Didn't play particularly well. We came away with the points. Whereas this time there's been more substance with the performances under Rossini. We played much better. We've created more chances, conceding less chances. I think the evidence is there that we can push towards the playoffs early on. It's just about maintaining that consistency, because as we've seen in the past, like if we get 1 defeat, heads can go down and we go on a tough run. But that it's about how the players obviously react to defeat, and after losing to Norwich, reacted well. We know that there's going to be a period where we're going to struggle for a few games, lose a couple. Just about if we had the characters in the squad to sort of react to that. And I think in terms of the likes like Scott Twine, Philogene, Morton as well, brought in solid players that have done it at this level, and they've sort of added to that. Whereas last season we had a lot of unproven sort of foreign players and a lot that were injured, and that sort of ruined our season a little bit. So this time round we're more equipped to actually go for the playoffs. And I think we do have the potential to sort of get there, but we know that Championship's hard, and you can go on poor runs and get injuries to key players. So it's hopefully that we can sort of stay in and around where we are now for as long as possible, and then see where we are in January, because no doubt there'll be a couple of quid spent in January, and then we can recruit where we need to, and then push the second half of the season.
Yeah, because last year January came a bit late, really. Rossini needed to bring in players, but we only signed 3, and one of them was heavyweight. So he's only really been able to mould his squad now. Another question I got from a listener was, have the players we signed indicate sort of a change of tactics this season? I'd say no, but it is more that the players we brought in with Twine and Philogene and these technical players shows that we need these exact sort of players to play the system Rossini wants, because last year perhaps we didn't do that when we signed lots of players under Schotter. We didn't really know what we were doing, but we've now got a squad that is Rossini's. Would you agree with that, Will?
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing the signings would suggest is I think he wants to move away from. I don't know if this is correct, but to me it suggests he wants to move away from trying to use 4-4-2. He wants to stick with a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 overall if he can. But yeah, I think now how many of Schotter's signings are still there now compared to the start of the summer?
Well, you got Tufan and Christie, Traore, Seri. I mean, there were good signings, but some of them were kind of marquee ones, like Tufan and Seri. I think
a third of them were, I think out of the 16, a third of them were brought in. I'd say. I mean, out of the 16 were brought in, about 6 of them have been good.
Put it this way, I think there's more players playing regularly who came in under McCann than came in under Schotter now, I'd say.
I'm going to look at my best.
Jones,
I don't know.
Jones, McLaughlin, Slater, Ingram, maybe. There's like 4 there that are playing well now.
Well, but then, Connolly,
as well.
He's definitely a senior player. But there were players we signed, like Seri, I think.
Well, I'm not saying there ain't any decent players on this from Schotter, but it feels like more of a Rossini team now than it did, definitely.
Yeah, and we've brought in a few from Brighton, Allsop. He's played at Derby with Rossini, and we wanted to bring in Max Bird. Clearly, the sort of transfer targets were definitely more sort of top targets for Rossini, whereas you didn't necessarily feel like Schotter had much say. And
look how many of them were transferred from outside of Britain.
Yeah, a lot more, or just players that had been in the Super League at some point. Like even Oscar, who we got from Portugal, he'd been in the Super League, so perhaps we knew about him, or Adjan and his scouts knew about him because he'd been there. But yeah, I agree. Maybe we are moving away from 4-4-2 because you wouldn't sell Oscar if you wanted to have 2 proper strikers, but you could have him in the middle, Tufan, and then have all the wingers. So I'd agree with that. I guess, why do we think we're going to be better than last season? I mean, there's a lot of good reasons, but just
someone asked this question.
Well, no, I have. I'm a person.
I thought of you and sent this a question.
There's one answer to that, and it's just simply Liam Rossini, I think.
That's 2 words though. We didn't say 1 word.
It's one answer though.
One answer. Yeah, I agree. Who knows if actually having him for the entirety of last year would have helped, but coming in and improving it, because you can't really tell what's going to happen with injuries and that sort of thing. But him being here for the entire year, and one of the things we probably mentioned it at the last episode, but like Twine talking about the tactical information that players are given compared to Schotter, who didn't really know what he was doing, especially in the Championship. Yeah, the tactical genius, isn't it? And it's proper style of play that he wants to play. So, yeah, just want a conversation starter, really. I know it's not really a meaty question, but sorry, I'm doing my best here. Anything else you want to mention? I think there was a table of every Championship club's net spend. I think the net spend for us was wrong because they didn't include Oscar's loan fee, which was quite significant. But we're definitely top. I think we're 7th or 3rd.
I think we're close to the top there. So I think if you're basing our prospects this season on that, then we should be in and around the top, and we shouldn't be surprised if we are. If you know what I mean, with the players who've brought in. You look at our squad compared to some of the others in this division, compared to like the likes of Bristol City, like Preston and stuff like that. I know they're doing well.
Plymouth were really high up there. They might have been 2nd or 4th or something, and that's because they've not, as a promoted League One club, they haven't sold a lot of players. Whereas Southampton have the least net spend because they've made a profit of selling Wood-Prowse and players like that. So is kind of doesn't really show the full story. But we have certainly, spent money on various players, and especially Philogene. So, is it a risk? Do you think it is a big risk, or is it quite a good sustainable model because we do have young players to sell if things do go wrong and we don't go up?
That's sustainable. I think you've got to. You look at it's a far cry from what we was doing last summer. Look at like some of the players who brought in, like Scott Swan, Vinagre, Philogene, Morton. You look at them and you think, yeah, that they're going to be good at championship level, and they've all experienced at championship level before, in one way or another. Obviously Vinagre was a key part of football's promotion season, and then played a part the following season in Europe, and then since then was a bit frozen out. But now, obviously, looking to get his career back on track, and so far is doing that. Got Tyler Morton, who played every single game for Blackburn last season, or most of them, and then obviously Twan played a decent role in Burnley's promotion winning campaign. So if you look at on the basis of the players we're signing, the sort of personnel, you'd think that we are over the chance of sort of pushing it towards the top of the division. But yeah, in terms of your question, I think it's a sustainable model. I think you've got to, in order to get your reward, it's cliche, but you've got to take those risks to get your rewards, and there are a lot of teams that have to get out of this division. I mean, likes of Luton haven't spent much at all, and they've managed to do it. But I think when the money's there, you've got to sort of invest it well, and certainly this summer I think we have.
Yeah. We've got a question from Enshep, and I think I might actually want to re-answer this one because I said Oscar was going to be the top goal scorer this season. I guess if he scores, if he scored 15 in France, does that count? Probably not.
No,
I don't think he is going to score.
I think I said Oscar's going to be top scorer as well.
So do we want to take this opportunity?
I said Connolly, so I'm all right.
Or I think you look at Delap, you look at probably not Twine, you look at Delap or Connolly or Tufan. Tom, did you say Oscar? So who could it be now?
I think based on the facts that Delap sometimes find himself dropping a bit deep to get the ball, and if Connolly, it depends on if Connolly stays fit. I'd like to say Connolly, but we know that his injury record is not the greatest, so it's a risk saying that. But I do think that Connolly, in terms of the positions he finds himself in, the runs he makes and behind, I think he's got a chance to be our top scorer. Whereas Delap's a bit more the selfless player, I'd say. Like he sort of drifts out wide to create opportunities for people in the middle, as we've seen for Tufan's goal against Bristol City. So I do think that, depending on if he stays fit, then Connolly could be our top scorer, but Tufan's probably with a shout as well.
I think I probably would go Tufan, but it's a shame he's injured for the next 2 home games, because I think at home, we said this on the last episode, he needs to be on the pitch at home because we have more control of the ball, and that's when he can really show his quality, and he's going to miss 2 chances for
I would agree
hat-tricks.
that I think if you're playing a 2 up front at home, you'd probably rather play Tufan than Connolly. You play Tufan and Delap, whereas away from home, with obviously Connolly's pressing, and if you want to take a bit of control away, then you'd rather play Connolly, if you know what I mean. I think Connolly and Delap away from home are better because of the pressing, and Tufan with the control that we have at home, like you say.
Yeah, because I mean, Connolly, we don't really keep the ball as much. It is that long ball over the top with his pace that he's got goals from. Will, what do you think about this one and Darlow?
I'm glad you asked this.
Ethereum thinks that Ethereum we made a mistake not signing him because he went to Leeds for only 500 grand. But do you want to explain? Is it just the wages would have been too much? I was about to
say, he didn't just go to Leeds for 500 grand. He went for a lot more money in wages, I imagine, as well, and probably a guarantee at the time, because I think Meslier was linked with leaving the club. He was probably promised at the time he'd be first choice as well. Obviously, that's not turned out well for him. But a lot more than just the transfer fee went into, and us not getting Darlow, which is a shame. But it's his choice. To be fair, if they offered him better money than we could offer him, then I wouldn't blame him, to be fair, going there.
Yeah, I think that's what most football transfers come down to. I think because we have sort of been on a more level footing with a lot of championship clubs that aren't parachute payment clubs, we're now a much more exciting prospect. Like it used to be that if several clubs were in from, like, I remember Norwood going to Sheffield United years ago, there's no chance he would have come here over them. And of course, they got promoted, but wages probably, I don't know whether it was really bad at that point, but footballing wise, we're much more exciting because of the way we play. And then again, he's saying that the keeper signing from Derby, well, he was at Derby, it was from Cardiff, will fit in well with Matt, because as I said last week, I think the best way to get the best out of Ingram is to have proper competition. That's what we've had, and Lototalo isn't really going to provide that. So I think we've answered that one. We're happy with Ingram, but I think, on my thing, I put Allsop in because if Rossini does talk about how good he is on the ball, I think maybe we'll see just the best of us, like when we had Darlow, and just be more comfortable at the back. So that's all I was thinking about. Shall we move on to the most exciting part of the episode?
Oh, God.
You excited? You excited? Okay, it's time for the combined lineup between Hull City and Coventry City now. Perhaps...
Put the lap out left when he played out right.
Well, again, wingers, I'll explain it with how I do it. I don't care where they are because they flip over all throughout the game anyway. Who cares? If you're right-footed on the wing, you can cross it or you can cut inside. You can do both. So
I'll read it this season.
Godden scored 3. So,
that's fair enough then.
So I'll read it out. It's Wilson in goal. He's had 2 clean sheets. Vinagre from his great performance against Leicester. Greaves, McFadzine, who is one of the highest rated players in the league. Coyle, again, the best right back in the league statistically, apparently. Ben Sheaf, Seri a bit further up because he can control the game, and he has got 2 assists this season. Regan Slater, Hadji Wright, who was signed from Antalyaspor to replace Gyökeres.
And
we wanted him last summer, exactly. So I thought he had to go in. Delap, left wing, he can be right wing, but who cares? And then Matt Godden up front. I know that maybe is a bit controversial over Delap up front, but Delap's on the wing there. And Godden has scored 3 goals, so there you go. Do you want to tear me apart?
Do you know what?
It's not bad. No,
you say this every week. You say this every week, but anytime I say it's time for the lineup, like, oh no, this is going to be awful. But they're consistently at least okay, I'll say. It's very, I haven't put Slater at goalkeeper. Honestly. You're not giving him my credit.
I think, obviously it's based on form, so yeah, I think you've done a decent job. You've done a decent job there.
The only one I would change that I can think of straight off the top of my head would be Greaves for Jones.
Yeah. But you can't have 2 right-sided centre-backs on. Ridiculous.
I think you've just put the lap on the left. So why can't you have 2 right-sided centre-backs?
You can cut inside. The wingers don't matter. You can cut inside and score with his...
It doesn't matter if you're right. I think you can put anyone across that back line. Just put a centre-back at right-back or something.
Yeah, but especially with the way this team plays... Rossini is always the manager. Well, I'm the manager, and I do what Rossini does with the possession-based style, playing out from the back. This is my lineup. So you couldn't have 2 right-sided or 2 left-sided because you'd get pressed or whatever, something like that. But you need the ability.
I'd maybe drop. I don't know. I'd drop Slater 4, but I'd probably drop him maybe for someone else. But I don't know.
Yeah. So I was just looking at the midfield options for both teams, and Callum O'Hare's injured, Tufan's injured, Twine's been decent, but you got to have Godden and Wright in there. Wright's got a goal and an assist, 2 assists. So I think Alex Lancaster says Whitto for the Germany job. What does that mean? Have Germany sacked their manager?
Yes.
Wasn't that who was the German manager for years?
No, it's Hansi Flick.
Hansi Flick, yeah. But obviously, yeah.
Did he? I thought he got sacked.
They got lost to Japan 4-1 last night, don't you, Nathaniel?
Did they? I knew they lost to them at the World Cup, but I thought... So have they sacked another manager since the World Cup?
No. He was manager at the World Cup.
And he still was.
Yeah.
but they're still rubbish. Is what he's saying.
Yes.
Generally, yes. What I found ridiculous when I read about it actually earlier is he's actually the first Germany manager to be sacked ever since they were first formed in the 1920s. It's the first one to be sacked.
That's very bad.
All have just left.
Yeah.
That's quite bad.
That is quite
Joachim
bad.
Löw left after his picking his nose, I think.
I could be the second Germany manager to get
his
sacked.
last game was losing to England.
Yeah, well, I am a 16th German, so I guess that does sort of make me almost eligible. So that would.
So you're about as eligible as Jimmy Bullard was for the Germans.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's more than not being a 16th. So,
Apply for it then, Nathaniel.
I don't know if I'd get it. I'm applying for other jobs.
Like Dame Russell.
I don't think they're quite that desperate. I mean, it's the German national team. They're quite good. So,
and they're hosting the major tournament next summer.
That is true. Do we think it is another question? Aside, so you can ask questions in the comments about things other than Hull or football. Do you think Harry Kane playing in Munich for a whole year before the tournament will help him for England? Because I don't really think it could.
What being in Germany will make him more better for a German tournament?
Well, because he'll just be used to the region and he'll be on his best form, hopefully. But he's always on his best form with Spurs. So that's just something I've seen in the media, and I'm not honestly sure it would help.
His record for England at tournaments in general suggests it doesn't matter where he is.
Well, he's the top scorer in tournaments for England ever, I think, with 11, 12.
They're saying that the other day he was the only player who looked like he was going to create a goal, never mind score one.
Well, he was the only player who did create one against Ukraine.
Exactly.
Do we want to talk about another fairly boring match for England? All of them.
You've left the England game very quick. You've left the whole City stuff very quickly there, Nathaniel.
Well, we have been talking about it for 47 minutes, to be fair. I think we've done pretty well. But I guess, I know Ant's not here, but we can get his prediction, or he might have already predicted it last week. But do we want to predict what the Coventry game and the Leeds game are going to be? Because again, anytime you've got the sort of 2 games at home in a week in the Championship, in the weekend game and then midweek, it's always a big, exciting time.
Yeah. What we do an episode next Sunday there to preview the
Leeds game.
Yeah.
That's very intelligent, Tom. So shall we just do Coventry City?
Just skip over it, because then we have the Coventry game to base our prediction on for next week.
Is Ian saying Ireland are beating Netherlands? I think he has done.
Connolly.
Adam Eder has scored from the spot. Well, they couldn't just let Connolly come off the bench and take that, surely? Seems a bit harsh. That's why we're done.
I share speed.
Oh dear, yeah. 8-5 the Sidemen charity game was.
I'm not bothered about the Sidemen at all. I'm glad they raise a lot of money for charity, but I could not give a single flying toss about that match.
I couldn't either, to be honest. I've never watched the Sidemen. I liked Chris MD. I like that. I'm happy he scored.
I'll watch him, to be fair, but
he was good. I didn't see him when I went to Guernsey on the cruise. I think that's where he lives, or it might be Jersey.
He lives in London
now. I definitely wouldn't have seen him.
Can we get back to football?
Well, we're talking about football. It was on the official FotMob app. Everyone had ratings. You could see the XG. The Sidemen or the other team's goalkeeper had a rating of 0.3.
Actually, now you've brought up XG, I can have a little rant again.
Okay, let's talk about XG.
Last week, the 5 worst teams for XG, 4 of them won their games and 1 of them drew. The worst XG last week was Hull City. Now, the worst 5 teams, all of them did well, and I think it was in the best 5 XG, like 3 of them lost. It just further validates how stupid a fucking statistic it is.
But
I do think that in space, based on, I think when you lose games, I think if you've got a high XG, you know that you're creating chances. That's all I'd say. But
what I would
it's,
say
I
to
think
that
when you
is,
base it, yeah.
but
like
with that,
we know,
there is a stat that says you created chances that's called shots and shots on target.
no, but the XG like indicates the value of them shots. I guess like you could have like 25 shots in the game, and you could have like
Right.
0.4 XG.
A shot has two values. It either goes in, which is a 1, or it doesn't go in, which is a 0.
Yeah, but then if you score from 40 yards and you say that's 1, but you're not always going to score from 40 yards.
Yeah.
That's the
But
point.
you did that time, so it's 1.
Well, yes, but I think it doesn't necessarily mean that if you have a higher XG, you should have won, but it's just a stat. Just because it doesn't correlate to the result, it's like more shots. How come a team had more shots didn't win? But it's just a stat you can use. It isn't the be all and end all of everything.
The problem is people treat it as the be all and end all of everything, and that's the issue.
Well, yeah, because when you see those sort of expected points, how much you expect based on, but that's more difficult because
expected
just,
points now.
Because that is no, but that is
just. We won the table on
just XG. It's just XG, really. That's all it is. I think XG conceded, XG scored. That's all
but XG is kind of an interesting stat, but when you do the expected points, that doesn't make sense to me because that does assume then that XG is the most important thing, which it isn't clearly.
No, it
so
isn't.
I agree with that.
The most important thing.
Yeah, well, it's the points, though, isn't it? You don't have to score goals; you just have to keep the clean sheet. So really, it's just points. So yeah, but it's just one thing of many. But I guess it's because it's so sort of a simple thing to look at how many goals, and maybe it is overused. But I like that some stats, come in and come out. It's the average ball recovery time at the World Cup, which has not become popular because who cares? It's basically exactly the same as possession.
Yeah, I have noticed as well when they do possession now, they'll do each team's possession and they'll have a bit in the middle that's like in transit type thing, as if no team's got possession of the ball.
But who cares? Yeah, I mean, I guess it is a fair portion of the time because the ball can be in the air for a long time. But yeah, I just that was just at the World Cup. In the Premier League, I think they've just been using the normal one.
No, I've seen that in the Premier League, that one.
Yeah, well, that's annoying. Well, because you loaded it up, I'm going to put it on screen. This is a photo of Lionel Messi photoshopped into the Hull City kit from last year, the away one. That's fun. I haven't got anything else.
We are scrounging for content today, aren't we, lads?
We really are.
Yeah, we're really scraping at the barrel, aren't we, today? But
well, it's the international break. We just got to do these sort of things.
I would say vote for us in the FCAs, but the voting is shut already.
Well, we can say...
But it felt like the voting was open like 5 minutes.
It was like a week and a half or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a fair period of time, I thought. Maybe 2 weeks. Because it was the entire time I went on holiday as well, I think. So it was a long time. But thanks to everyone who
pushed it. Well,
yeah, thanks to everyone who did vote. Yeah. And if we are successful enough to be in the final, when I think voting opens, October or late this month? 5th of October?
25th
September. Then we would very much like you to vote for us in the actual final, because that was just the nominations. But we don't know until later this month, until we get into that.
Of course, we're not bothered about nominations. We don't do it for the content or anything.
No, of course not. But thanks again for listening to the award-winning.
Are we ending here as well?
Oh, I was just mentioning that we don't do it for the awards, but we are award-winning. We're very proud of it. So always got to mention that. But I think just quickly we'll get our score predictions for Hull City Coventry. I don't think it's going to be as exciting as 3-2 last year. Maybe a bit tighter. But we'll just get your silly one out of the way. I know you did get points from it last week, but...
It's not silly considering I was the other one to predict us to beat Leicester.
Yeah. Well, go on then, Will. Say it. Get it over with.
3-0 City.
Boring. Alex says 2-1, presumably to Hull. Alex, this is what happens when Anta's away with the Turkey squad on international duty. I guess he isn't, but he could be. He could be if he was fit. So That's a good comment, Alex. Tom, commentary, thoughts?
I think I'm just going to stick my neck out and say 1-0 to Hull City.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on 0 points, but despite I'm still pissed off. I said 1-1 when I said 2-1 on a different podcast. But well,
if you really want to play the odds, I don't think that saying a Hull win is that's not really playing the odds. I know we've had a good start, but you know,
well,
it's
what
still
you
Hull
predict
City.
a 4-4 draw?
I'm going to predict. Yeah, I think what Alex says, 2-1 to Hull. I think maybe.
You're really playing the odds there, Nathaniel.
Well, yeah, it was even more unlikely than Tom, but I've already got some points, so I'll go 2-1 to Hull City. Maybe Twine will get his first goal, and maybe a lovely free kick. Just check the comments. I think we've got a few more predictions to read out. So when it loads, I can read those out. Here we go. Nshep 1-1 or 0-0, perhaps a draw. Alex says, Witter always shutting my attempts at jokes down and making me look odd. Apologies, but you do that to yourself, I guess. I'm just seeing saying what I see, really. So apologies for that. But thanks again. So 2-1 win to Hull. Will 3-0. Tom 1-0 to Hull. That would be a lovely start to a very big week at home against Coventry and Leeds. So thanks again for all your comments and questions. I think we really needed some sort of more topics to debate. Will, did we want to talk very finally about having gravy, beans, or corn on the cob as a part on the KFC menu? Because we were talking about that before.
This is nothing to do with me. This is you that's brought this up.
Okay, right, this guy gets corn on the cob instead of gravy. Shoot him.
Well, I like corn on the cob. It's nice.
Yeah, but I do agree. You did say that. To be fair,
despite my shit, I don't eat KFC often.
To be fair, I do agree that it should be an extra side. Obviously, corn on the cob is actual item that you chew on, and that. Whereas as class gravy and beans as a side. But yeah, let's just get.
How did we win an award?
I don't know. It's the KFC.
Gravy's still the best side. Gravy's still the best side.
We didn't win. We came third.
That's true.
How did we come third?
How did we come third? Yeah, we were still the highest.
Yeah, this is the debate everyone wants to. This is the debate everyone's here for. One. What order do you get with KFC? Come on.
Yeah.
Surely Ethereum is a more logical question.
Yeah. Ethereum says 2-0 Cov, Hull win. Oh yeah, and then 1-1 Leeds draw. Wouldn't mind 4 points at home this week. But yeah, I think gravy's good. I'm not a huge gravy fan myself, but it's decent. But compare that to just beans, which is sort of a side. But corn on the cob, that's a nice, tasty thing, and feels a bit. It's not healthy.
So what you
feels healthier.
What you dipping your chicken in then?
Well, well, it isn't dry, is it? I don't have a
come
dip.
on, man! You got to dip your chicken in something.
Well, today I ordered a real tomato dip, and I didn't get any, so I was eating it at home. Will was crying in the corner.
We're scraping it to 1 hour, aren't we?
We really are scraping. We'll just finish shy of an hour, but thanks again for listening. If the voting does open later this month, we would really like you to vote again in the final if we do get there. But thanks again for commenting and liking, and we'll be back again next week. Bye-bye.